Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm your host, One Camera Guy, and in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the Sony 7200 G Master. Let's get started. I want to stress to my viewers that this is an initial review. I had the opportunity to test the lens out on both the Alpha 6300 and the Sony a7R Mark II at a volleyball tournament for about 3.5 hours on Saturday. With that said, I've gotten a good overall opinion on the lens performance. However, I will be doing more tests with this lens with a variety of sports. I've still got something like cross country, football, and a few others. Normally when I do shoot volleyball, I tend to go with the 85 f1.8 because of that fast aperture, but in this case I went ahead and ran with the 70-200. So I'm going to go ahead and break the review down, and you can use the time links down below so you can jump to the parts that matter to you. We'll be taking a look at the physical aspects and features of the lens, general handling, autofocus performance, and a conclusion at the end of the video. So as far as the specifications, the Sony 7200 G Master, construction-wise, is very similar to the 70-200 f4. The build is really good and solid. The lens comes in at 3.26 pounds, and when you compare that to Canon, it's nearly the same. And compared to the 7200 Sony f4, it's just under 2 pounds. So it is a definite difference, and you can definitely feel the difference in weight, I'll tell you that. Weight is going to be a definitive argument for the pundits who think these types of lenses don't make sense on mirrorless bodies and can be ridiculous. In some ways they are right, but when I compare it to me holding a 5D Mark III with battery grip with the Canon 70-200, the overall Sony package is still going to be much lighter in that regards. Lens features. The lens nearly has the same features that you'll find in the f4 model of this lens. You have autofocus, manual focus switch, you have a focus limiter of full and infinity to 3 meters. The lens has optical steady shot and has 2 modes of stabilization. In addition, you have 3 focus hold buttons placed between the focus ring and the zoom ring. You have a removable tripod base which slides right off when you loosen one of the knobs. Now, I haven't personally dealt with a lens with this kind of setup, but the tripod ring is incorporated into the base of the actual lens. So loosening one of these knobs will allow you to rotate the lens if you have it on a monopod or tripod. The lens is said to be weather resistant, dust and weather resistant. You can definitely see the rubber gasket on the rear end of the lens. The lens hood on this is very interesting. For one, it's of good quality. The interior of the lens has this really nice plush textured fabric for catching dust, which is nice. There's also a small button you do press to release the lens, similar to the Canon's hood. But what's really interesting is this window that you kind of pull back or pull down, and you're able to get access to the filter of the actual lens. So if you have a polarizer or variable ND filter, you can get access to it by pulling that window down and then rotating the filter in front of the lens, which is a really nice touch. I've never seen it on any other lenses so far that I've interacted with. The zoom and focus ring feel well dampened and smooth. It feels really good. And finally, the lens features 23 elements, 18 groups, as well as 11 rounded aperture blades to help you get that nice creamy bokeh. So as far as autofocus performance, my goal while trying this out at the volleyball tournament was to get not only acquainted with the 7200 lens, but also with the autofocus modes and options of both my Sony mirrorless cameras, in this case the Alpha 6300 and the A7R Mark II. Up until this point, I really hadn't had the chance to shoot any more indoor sports with these two cameras. I did try several different autofocus modes to determine which one worked best. Like I mentioned earlier, I'll still be doing more tests. The one thing I noticed quickly is that if you're not using the right autofocus mode, you're gonna find your lens hunting a lot more than it really should. Initially, when I had set the lens to flexible spot, basically where you can kind of pick the spot where you wanted to take pictures from, I didn't find the results to come out that well. But when I did change it to lock-on AF center or any type of, any form of lock-on AF, the performance definitely improved, and that's when it started taking advantage of the 425 phase detect points in the camera. The lens and body combo I still found sort of hunted slightly, but it didn't happen very often. I know a lot of folks hate making comparisons, and I do too, but I still find that a DSLR is still faster in some ways when I compare it to a 5D or a 7D. And I think we can all agree at this time that Sony is getting there, but it's not quite there with regards to sports shooting. But I do want to say that there are some tangible benefits that you get using a Sony mirrorless system. What's really great about the Sony mirrorless system, especially with this lens, is the fact that you get these focus hold buttons that are available at your disposal. I never really took advantage of these focus hold buttons before until this actual tournament. I went ahead and set the focus hold button to do eye autofocus. I have to say this feature can become a game changer. Let me explain. In a sport like volleyball, if you want to get a photo of the players behind the net, you could probably manually focus your way there, set manual focus, and even hope your autofocus will hit with a DSLR. What I did, however, was I used both kind of like face tracking and also eye autofocus to see which one would work. What I found out when I used those features, those autofocus features, was that the camera was able to lock focus past the net and onto the actual subject. So that is something I'm definitely going to play around with more. I can't really conclusively say it's amazing, but it is a really nice feature that I need to go ahead and try out more to get a better idea of how well it works. In addition, I like getting good close-ups of the players, really close-up shots, and I used eye autofocus to make sure that my focus was on mark with these subjects. I absolutely took advantage of this feature, and like I said, I won't say it's a game changer, but it's definitely a tool that photographers and sports photographers can take advantage of, and definitely, obviously, events and portrait photographers can use it too. Let's go over handling. When shooting with the Sony A7R Mark II with the battery grip, I found the combo to work really well. It felt really good in the hands, not obviously DSLR quality. DSLRs are just more chunkier, but with the mirrorless system, it's okay. You know, you're making that compromise. I just couldn't imagine not using a battery grip. It would feel very uncomfortable trying to shoot vertically with this combination, especially with a sport like basketball or volleyball. On the Alpha 6300, I'm going to outright recommend that you get the battery grip, a third-party battery grip, in order to use this lens effectively. I know you could probably use it without it, but at the same time, it's just going to make your life a little bit easier with it. So let's jump into conclusion. The Sony 7200G Master is the lens that Sony E-mount users have been waiting for. I still have quite a ways to go for a complete review, but my initial impression so far is that it's a solid native lens for the system. My upcoming reviews will probably hopefully take a look at sharpness, as well as using the 1.4 extender for something like football when that comes in. I still don't think, and I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, I still don't think that the Sony mirrorless system is ready for prime time when it comes to sports, but they definitely are heading in the right direction. I think this will definitely be a solid lens for portrait shooters and event shooters. Obviously, if you've been waiting for an f2.8 7200, it's already here. Sadly, supplies are short and demand will be fulfilled soon. You know, I just got mine a few days ago and I had been waiting and waiting so long for it. I had ordered it that 10 minutes after the opening window for that lens came out on B&H Photo. So you could definitely imagine the wait times that this lens is going to have. Here's something interesting though. I'm still waiting for a more pro line body from the Sony, for the Sony E-mount that can definitely take advantage of lenses like this for sports. And I think that's going to be around the horizon. If you're still on the fence about this lens for sports, I would suggest that you wait just a little bit longer as more tests come out for me. As more tests come out from me and as other photographers. If you are waiting for this lens as a sports photographer to make the leap to the Sony system, I recommend you wait a little bit longer. Sony definitely has a new body announcement coming up, and that might address a lot of the growing pains that Sony users have had with their cameras, especially with sports shooters. I know there's a lot to love and a lot to hate about Sony, but you can at least appreciate their efforts in pushing more technology into their cameras. Folks, that's all I have for you in this video. If you have any questions or comments about the lens, feel free to put them down below in the comments. And if you did find this video helpful, consider giving it a like. And if you do want to see more content like this, especially on the 7200 G Master, consider subscribing. And if you missed any of my previous videos, you can go ahead and find them somewhere around here. And with that said, I'm your host, Camera Guy, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.